Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Today, I'm going to perform two pieces by Sergei Rachmaninov, a Russian composer. The first one is in C-sharp minor, which he wrote when he was about 19. And the second one is in G-sharp minor after a successful career. So I'll start with giving you a little history on Rachmaninov. He went to Western Europe and the United States for a performance tour and a composition tour. And after 5 years of being very successful in the United States, he became a sensation. He was offered a position in the Boston Symphony Orchestra as a permanent conductor. And at that moment, he decided, actually, I'm going to go back to Russia. He was homesick. So he went back to Russia, and that was around 1910 when he wrote the second piece that I'm going to play. That's after, so the first one was 19, the second one is after a very successful career. You'd think that something changed. Well, the truth, not really. He stayed very consistent. And that's one of my purposes of this project was to see how they compare. They actually compare in more ways than they contrast, the two pieces. But he stayed in Russia until 1916 and then left right before the Russian Revolution that led to the communist takeover. And at that point, he stopped writing for 25 years, and then he died. So the kind of ideas of the first one, he was really only a kid when he wrote it. And the second one is after a successful career. So a few things that I wanted to say about what I paid attention to when I was learning the pieces. So this is going to sound strange, but bells are very important in Russian culture in general. So at the town center, they would ring bells to bring people together in times of celebration or crisis. There would be bells on top of the Orthodox Church. Inside the Orthodox Church, there would be many different bells, from really big ones that make a very low pitch to little kind of twinkling bells. And then finally, a very important thing in Russian culture is the bells on the horses. It's called the troika. And the horses would always trot through the snow in snowstorms, and because you couldn't see much, you could always hear the bell as it came. And that was a huge impression on not only Rachmaninoff, but many other Russian composers. So hopefully, maybe, I'll play the first piece, which is what he wrote in when he was 19 years old. And maybe you can hear what kind of bells I'm talking about. In this piece, it's the big bell that would ring on top of the church, kind of the bell that you might hear a clock tower ring. So. I'll tell Rachmaninov. So, did anybody hear what might be a bell?
Like the big octaves of your mind.
Yeah. So it started off with this thing, like ringing, right? As if the bell was ringing, and then at the very end, if anybody didn't hear it, he really made a point out of it with this. It's like the same note that keeps on ringing. So it's like the church or the town center, something is ringing. So that's one concept. Usually the bell was ringing in the time of crisis. So you can kind of hear the sadness in the piece. Another thing that he said is he was a very kind of serious person. So he wrote a letter to a friend around the time that he wrote this piece that said, how can you live if you know that one day you were going to die? So that's not something that 19-year-olds usually think about. So it's interesting, and I really thought about that quote when I was trying to express this piece, because it kind of, this music is really a reflection of that. So I'm going to play the next piece. And here I think the bells are more clear. And this piece, what I try to imagine is, and I imagine this because this is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's a horse-drawn carriage with the bells on it, and you imagine you're by yourself in kind of a empty winter kind of wasteland, and you can't see anything, but you can hear the bells in the background. So I think that's the image he was trying to get with this next one. This is the one he wrote after Sakasa's career, and this one is G sharp minor. you. So I think that one, not much change in his style, but he was older and had a long life of depression. That piece sounds a little bit more agitated, you could say. So a few things. So the bells in this case, where it started here, or here. And then at the end, especially, this thing. That's like clearly it's meant to be little bells on a horse-drawn carriage. So I guess a few things that I learned from this experience. So first thing, completely by accident, I learned that videotaping myself and then watching it is very useful because I can judge myself as if I was judging another pianist on YouTube. Because when I'm playing, I'm always worried about, I did that so well, oh, that's great. But Ms. Kondo said, why don't you videotape yourself and show me your progress? And I said, okay. So I videotaped myself, and I watched it, and I said, oh, I don't like that, and I don't like that. All these things that I didn't like, I didn't even notice I was doing. And I realized, wow, I can use this to my advantage. I started doing that kind of later in the game. I wish I had known that before, and I started from the beginning. But that was something that I discovered by accident, which I will definitely continue doing in the future, not just for senior experience. And the other thing is that I was familiar with these pieces before I started, but I would not have been able to play it the way I did. So the 4 weeks were useful, but I think more time would have been better because I made a mistake. I played the pieces in front of an audience, a few people, a while ago, about 2-3 weeks ago, before I was completely ready, and I ironed in some very nasty errors, which is easy to do. According to my piano teacher, you can learn an error in 1 second, but to learn the actual music takes forever. So that's an issue that I dealt with, kind of thinking that I was ready to perform it, performing it, and then acquiring errors. So if I had some more time, I guess, to practice without performing for anybody, and then maybe another 2 weeks just practicing the performance part, I think that would have been better for me. But it doesn't mean I'm leaving these pieces here. This is not like a stopping point for me. My piano teacher even said that today, when I'm done with this, go home and practice them again, because it's a ever-evolving piece of work. So that's it for me. Any questions for me or for Rachmaninov? Yeah.
Do you have maybe an estimate on how many pieces Rachmaninov wrote during his career? I know it's like really rough.
I know that he has 24 of these preludes. He has 3 symphonies. He has 4 piano concertos. And then he has a whole bunch of miscellaneous work for the piano. He has 2 sets of 12 etudes for the piano. So it's a lot.
Were you drawn to Rachmaninov because he's Russian? No, seriously.
I think so. My piano teacher said there's classical music and then there's Russian music. It just has a different flavor in my opinion, but
it's true for the novels too.
Yeah, I do know Russian literature.
They sound like Russian novels.
Right, exactly.
So I have a music-related presentation later today, so I was wondering, are you trying to make me look bad?
Thank you. Wait, no.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
I what?
You spoke to him?
Rachmaninov?
Yeah.
This morning. I texted him. Yes.
I have the same question because I actually have a presentation in an hour or so.
Okay, cool. I'll be there.
I'm really trying not to stay here.
Anyway, thank you everybody for coming.